We're going to start off with an interesting piece. Kari Miller is with us, and Kari wrote an article for us that appeared in yesterday's issue of Quality Digest Daily called "Quality Across the Supply Chain." Now, there it is, right there. You can see it in your screen share. Now, quality issues, of course, across the supply chain. We know there's a lot, because we talked about it on the show a lot often, that there's a lot that goes into that. You know, risk management is part of it, cost of quality is a part of it, and there's certain things that you really need to be aware of, especially as Kari comes to it from this perspective of a regulated environment, pharmaceuticals in particular, that there's a lot you really need to be aware of. I mean, today's supply chains, hey, we all know, you could be dealing with dozens, if not hundreds, of individual organizations across thousands, tens of thousands of miles. It's a very complex system. And handling that supply chain, very, very important for making sure that you're ensuring the quality of your organization across the spectrum of your enterprise. So we're going to jump into this right now with Kari Miller. Kari is with us. Kari, and you, we can hear you, I assume, through Skype, if you're there.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Hello, Kari. How are you today?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Kari, of course, is the author of the article, and she's the Senior Director of Industry Solutions and Product Management for Pilgrim Software. And of course, you, again, wrote the article that appeared in yesterday's issue of Quality Digest Daily. So Kari, again, thanks for joining us. I wanted to start off by really asking you a little bit about the supply chain and manufacturers. Today, of course, manufacturers shrinking their supplier lists and demanding shorter lead times and greater cost reductions. What does that do to the supply chain, and what does that do to quality across the supply chain as far as you see it?
Well, it does a couple things. First of all, with those shrinking supplier lists, you need to make sure that the product that you're getting or the service that you're getting from those suppliers or contractors is good quality right away. You can't afford to have redos, because now you've tightened up your supply chain. So you've got fewer people to turn to source material from. You've got an increased risk that, if quality is bad with those suppliers, that you're going to have upstream supply chain problems. So, that shrinking supplier list puts even more pressure on a global supply chain. And, materials coming from further and further away. So, getting things right the first time is more and more critical to the overall supply chain for any manufacturer or brand owner.
You talk in your piece, and we talk about it a lot here as well, about assessing risk and managing risk, and increasingly that's something that has fallen to quality professionals, the idea that you need to be cognizant of the risk that is involved in your organization. How is that especially important when you're dealing with supply chains, and even more important when you're dealing in, as we say, a highly regulated environment?
Yes. So pharmaceuticals, for instance, are consumed by human beings, right? So therefore, that industry has to be particularly sensitive to the risk that they have in their supply chain, because they have to worry about adverse patient effects, right? If they have poor quality, that poor quality can cause illness, it can cause long-term side effects and even death. And, in recent years, we've seen, tainted pharmaceuticals have caused serious, sometimes fatal allergic reactions to scores of patients. So, contamination in this case really resulted in a large recall. Recalls are very, very expensive. But, more importantly than that, as a brand owner, if you get product from a supplier that has not followed proper protocols and has done something to not ensure that they're giving you good product, you're still responsible for that as the brand owner. It doesn't matter if it came from a supplier's supplier. You have to take responsibility for it as the brand owner. So as the supply chain grows globally, as your suppliers and contractors get further and further away from you, it is really important to put processes together to ensure that good first quality with those suppliers and contracts, to make sure that you are actually getting good product to the market that's not going to have adverse patient effects. because it is human life we're talking about.
Sure.
And secondly, you want to be sure that you don't damage your name, right? Your brand name. So it becomes really important to look across the supply chain to make sure that you know where you have risk factors, and then you can focus some attention in those areas. And that could even extend to transportation for that matter. Mm-hmm. So it really expands across the supply chain. It's further away, takes longer to do. Very, very critical to shorten all of that collection point and make sure that you have the appropriate data to measure risk.
Hey Kari, just one quick question. Just so I understand the context, you're saying that if your supplier does something that causes your product within an FDA environment, I'm assuming you're some sort of regulated environment, if your supplier does something, even though it's their fault, and it causes your product to cause harm, that actually your company is who's liable?
Yes, as a brand owner, you are responsible for ultimate product quality. So it becomes very important for you to ensure in a regulated environment, pharmaceuticals being one, medical devices are another, really anything that's humanly consumable, it really becomes important to.
So no passing the buck.
Exactly.
Okay.
So transparency with your suppliers, no matter where they're located, is going to be absolutely critical to the health of your supply chain.
Well, Kari, we talked at length, thank you about that, about the issue of quality. You also talked at length in your article about the issues of productivity and delivery, and I want to kind of jump off from there and get into those areas as well. So how are suppliers evaluated in those other important criteria as well?
Well, we talked about quality already because we know the upstream impact it has on our supply chain and the potential for adverse patient effects if you're dealing in a regulated environment. So that one is pretty self-explanatory. Productivity is another one, though. You may have a supplier that when they send you the product or service that they're being contracted for, and it's always good quality, that's a great thing. But if they can't ever send you the quantities that you require, you're going to end up again with supply chain delivery problems. You're going to end up with upstream shortages. So it's really important to make sure that you're testing your suppliers and contractors for their capabilities in terms of delivery and productivity to ensure that, again, you're going to get what you need when you need it, because in this case, things do flow uphill. Mm-hmm. So same thing with delivery. It's just kind of the flip side of that productivity coin. If again, you can get the product made, you can get the products in terms of the quantity that's needed, that's all good. But if you don't have a good delivery system, if you don't have trusted partners in terms of transportation and having on-time delivery and getting the product to the right place at the right time, again, you're going to cause upstream supply chain problems. And, those kinds of things, when they keep happening in this marketplace, if they can't get something from you, they're going to turn real quickly to someone else that they can get it from and get it from quickly. So very important to work through all three prongs of that delivery mechanism for our suppliers, both quality, productivity, and delivery. Those are the three things to measure.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kari. We could talk about this a lot longer. I mean, supply chain obviously is a huge issue, and there's many facets to it. But we do have to move on today. But we really do thank you for being on our show today.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, we'll look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks, Kari.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
And again, that was Kari Miller. Her article was Quality Across the Supply Chain.
Yes.
Enterprise software eases the burden in highly regulated environments.
Right, software. That's important. We didn't really get too much into the software part of that.
But basically, it's software is one of the mechanisms you can use for monitoring your supply chain.
Sure, and I encourage all of you out there, please read the article and check out Pilgrim as well. That you can link to them through the article and find out more, because it's an important topic, and it's one that we cover a lot. So look out for that.